Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. Wait, what's the date? 21st. It's the 21st, guys. And hey, remember yesterday when I was down on all of my positions and I looked like absolute fool? Well, doesn't look so bad now, does it? Doesn't. I actually, you know what? I took one in the ES a little bit later in the day and just held it to the close, and all that one really did was wipe out the trade that I had taken. Of course, this was all sim. And that one kind of wiped out the ES. But then over here in the treasury, this one is turning positive. So I'm kind of wondering here, do I need to manage this? No sound? No, never mind. Okay, we're good. I changed some settings. So let me know if anything sounds off. Okay. It should sound a little bit better. Kind of got it back to what it was before. After I screwed things up. Anyways, I'm not quite sure how I want to manage this one. I think we could have some ways to go. So if we come back over here to the following charts, let's start with the treasury. Okay, so that 130 spot and 22.5 or so area seems to be pretty good. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn between take some profit off and give myself like lots of room to run, and like just adding and pushing it. But oh, did the theme song not play? Did the theme song not play? I mean, it plays over my headphones. It should be fine. Well, anyways. Keller says I just missed the theme song. I'm wondering if I screwed my son up. Hey, so I don't know. Does the treasury have more to go here? By the way, some steepening again here. Just going back and forth on this game, although overall it's been the flatteners have been winning, right? At least as of late. S&P 500. So again, it was a pretty bad day yesterday, but they eventually recovered, and now in the overnight action, not looking too bad. So could we get a Santa Claus rally for the rest of the week? Hey, why not? Why not? I don't see any reason why not. Oh yeah, another thing in the treasuries. I think we got like a 20-year auction today. We'll check that here in a second. Oil looked pretty bad yesterday too, but again, they just kind of bounced back up to the 70 area. I would love to see them more like 80, but you know, it's going to take a while for them to get there, isn't it? Natural gas up a little bit. There was like a pipeline that got halted and everything, but apparently it's not a big deal. I know. In order for natural gas to like spike up back to where it was, we might need like a really big disruption, because it seems like that they are getting the natural gas from Russia. So, and that supply is keeping them down. Right now, silver and gold also they got hammered pretty bad yesterday as well. But look, a silver coming back. So I just want to know, the silver to gold ratio is like really far off, and kind of suggests that silver should, you know, if that correlation was to come back in line. I don't necessarily think that it has to, but then silver could come back pretty hard here, and it is doing so at least today. And we got copper. Copper looks okay. So all the metals complex looks looking pretty good this morning. And then let's come over and look at currencies. We'll look at the dollar first. Dollar a little bit weaker than yesterday. Would really like to see it below 96.2 today if we get some risk on movement, yeah. And then Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin. Oops, we're not all the way over. Bitcoin, a little bit of a relief rally the other day. I mean, it's still kind of meh. They're coming back to. I would kind of consider this like an 4,800 area, kind of a balanced area. Really like 5,000. So they might even be able to try and make a further little push. Normally in Bitcoin, I'm gonna come back over here. Normally in Bitcoin, you get crashes around this time of year. I was actually like going through my Facebook posts, and it was like reminding me of crashes in like 2012 and stuff like that. Like, it was kind of funny. It's crashed around this time of year many times. So that it hasn't happened yet, and that, I mean, they had a decline, but it wasn't like the end of the world. I think it actually looks pretty good for Bitcoin at this point. I mean, we expected to see some bearish flows in December. we definitely got those bearish flows in December, but price was not uh, permanently damaged as of yet. Jim Cramer got coronavirus? No, really? Let's go see here. Is it like on CNBC? Is it the top story on CNBC? Jim Cramer, no, I don't. Cramer expects Omicron related stock slump to be short lived. Well, I agree with him on that one. What, is it on zero hedge? It would certainly be on zero hedge, right? Oracle seeks to make a splash in healthcare cloud computing with acquisition of Cerner. Well, that could be interesting. No, I don't see it. He sure has been aggressive on the everybody needs to get vaccinated thing. Was a little crazy. Yeah, blow my nose here. Hold on. All right. Well, anyways, I guess I could search this way. Jim Cramer. I have COVID, Jim Cramer says. He says he's been triple vaccinated and has a mild case. Yeah. It's really disappointing that people that have that so many people that have the vaccine are still getting the virus. Because well, it's disappointing in that at the same time it's kind of funny because that really means that you have to live with it, right? Like the new variants are going to come through, certain number of people are going to get sick no matter what. And this whole like we can like save everybody from ever dying from coronavirus is, you know, the policymakers are kind of finally having to face the reality. And you've seen that in the Democrat Party, even to some extent, that they don't really want to do crazy stuff this time around with Omicron, even though some of the numbers in terms of like the number of people that are catching it could hit hospitals pretty hard. By the way, we're like up like 6 basis points overnight, so I don't know. I still think that I am going to on my live account be extra risk averse, and I'm not sure if it makes sense for me to take profits in this location. I heard apparently more people with the vaccine are getting Omicron and trying to make sense of why that would be. Well, yeah. I mean, one of the I keep seeing a lot of really bizarre social media posts that I'm just like, are people really that stupid, or is somebody trying to manipulate people? Because they'll come in and they'll say like, if 90% of people are vaccinated, then how can 95% of the cases be among unvaccinated people? And it's like, well, just because that group of unvaccinated people is really small doesn't mean that they can't be the majority of the cases. So I'm just seeing all these things like that. But then it's like these laws of big numbers, right? Even if the vaccine provides significant resistance to the virus, even if a very, very small percentage of those people catch the virus and die from it, that's a lot of people, and it's a pretty big. It's not an insignificant hit, let's say. Um, but on the split side, some of the numbers that's the other thing is some of the numbers that I see people sling around are like ridiculous. Like they're like, okay, but if like 0.5% of people die from it, and I'm like, well, that would be relatively high. It's totally that Bayesian thing. Well, I mean, it's not quite, but I don't think. I don't think that you have to go into Bayesian analysis to sort that one out. I'm just saying you can have, let's say there's 100 people and 90 of those people are vaccinated and we have 5 cases. That means that half of the unvaccinated people caught the virus. If they were all unvaccinated people, right? That's why, and they're like, that's statistically impossible. Well, how is that? Your wife has a run it. Hey, Uzi, I was wondering where you were at. Well, I don't know. I was wondering where. I noticed that you were gone, but I said, it's the holidays. People are going to be gone. But glad to see you today. Well, Uzi's here. It kind of makes me feel like maybe we should take a train. I don't know. Like it's right there, one spot 4-6. If to get a fill, it could run. The treasury could run today. I don't know. Well, so let's go back here. We do have a 20-year auction today, correct? Let me confirm that. This one's not showing it. You have to go to treasurydirect.gov. You've been helping run the business. So does she got it pretty bad? Hey, yeah, it is. Auction date today. I forget the place to see the time for it. It's not showing up on my regular calendar. Okay, closing time is at noon Eastern time. Oh, so it'll be like 10 o'clock here. Oh, competitive closing time. It'll be 11. Oh, it'll be the usual time. Okay, so it'll be at 11 my time. I don't know, man. So there's a 20-year auction today, and the treasuries are kind of starting the day out selling. That's a little ominous to me because when we've had these down days and it happens on an auction day, they end up being really brutal, right? And that could be a good reason to try and be long. I think that I would have to be getting filled on the limit somewhere in here. I don't know, but this trade looks good, and I did. Oh, okay, I had some of this down here, so I do have it set up here so that if I get the profits, because I only was down 1,500 yesterday, actually, believe it or not. So so the way that I've been playing this is just I want to go short, and how do I manage that short position? And I want to give myself enough room that it's like I would really have to be like dramatically wrong to fail on the trade, right? And here this is kind of working really well. So now the question though is okay, now that we're in the money and everything, how much do we take it off? Do we add to it here? I don't. Okay, let's see here. She had a day of moderate fever. Now she's good, but just really, yeah, that's the way that I was. Is like, it gave me a fever, and I was just kind of annoyed, but it didn't really hurt me. Like that 2020 when I caught something in December of 2020 that apparently wasn't COVID. That was so much worse for me. Oh my gosh, that just really hit me. Although I must say that after getting COVID, I don't feel like I've ever been quite the same. Are they doing a level break setup here at 28.5? You see that 4K on the offer at 20.5? This is not a situation where I would be trying to run for the level break. But if we do get the level break here, that might be kind of a sign that it's going to be one of those days. Your anti-vax, anti-mask coworker got COVID and nearly died this past week. Now she's afraid to leave her house and won't come back to work. The vaccine thing is a much more complicated issue than I think people make it out to be. Most is especially if you haven't caught it. Like the thing for me, I take medications that kind of keep my heart rate, my blood pressure a little bit high, anyways. So I'm really concerned about this myocarditis thing. I'm kind of concerned that I would be really prone to it. A normal, healthy person, I don't think has to worry too much about it, but it is a risk that's out there, and it seems to me that some governments are downplaying the risk and um, not doing what they're supposed to be doing based off of the risk. But at the same time, for the average person, the risk that you're actually going to get something from it is very low, at least from the information that we have now. A lot of people think that it's much higher than they claim, but you can hear how frustrated she is that it's not bad for my wife because but it really like I don't know. So I mean, let's just start from where we're at right now. Is Omicron really as severe of a risk as some people out there are making it out to be? The market, we continue to see these sell offs in the market because of Omicron. And, I'm kind of sitting here like, what am I missing? Because it doesn't look so bad to me. Good morning, Vietnam. That reminds me, I changed the microphone a little bit. Does it sound okay to you guys? I don't think a lot of people understand that you can get SARS-CoV-2, but oh, you mean like you don't get it in your lungs? That's a really good point, yeah. I mean it's like when it gets in your lungs and you have this severe reaction to it that it really kills you. And they've even kind of come into why it seems to hurt people with that are obese because it actually like infects the fat cells and then that causes these extra problems. But I digress. Is the Omicron variant really as big of a problem for society at large as some people are making it out to be? I feel that the Delta virus was kind of overhyped. Yeah. I mean, it's not like it wasn't there wasn't problems caused by it. It was certainly a thing. A lot of people caught it. The good number of people died. It did create some stress on our healthcare system, but in the end, it wasn't a disaster or anything like that. And we all just kind of, it passed, and we all moved on. And then you'd think Omicron will be even less bad than that. I mean, it will be different because probably more people will catch it. Maybe more people will die. I don't know. GT350 says it's all fearborn. I really feel like well, there are some people online that just make a big deal out of everything, and then there are some people that try and say that it's not a thing. And what are you supposed to do? Okay, so the level break did work, by the way. So this is not necessarily the flow that I would have expected to see in the treasury today, but I think that contextually it does make sense that interest rates are coming back hard and we have an auction today, and so we're getting some pretty dramatic moves. I'm also want to note that the liquidity looks okay. We're getting, as high as 4,000 on the offer, and most of these prices are in the 3,000s. There's some down below us that are a little weak. I kind of wonder on that one, what the liquidity will look like on the bid side if we continue to move down. Now, all of that said, I'm still not certain if I should be like selling into this. It's a trend day sort of a thing. Um, but certainly, I'm not confident enough on it to be hitting into like one spot for 7 now, right? Maybe we get a little bit of a pullback back to the 28 half spot. We can see how we feel about it then. Mm-hmm. GT350 says I had the well, yeah, because have you ever seen some of this polling on like what Democrats think are the numbers for COVID, right? Like they did this poll and Democrats thought that if you caught the coronavirus that it was like a 50% chance of you dying or something. Like it was this ridiculously high number that this poll came out with. I just couldn't believe it because it's like less, it's like fractions of a percent. My fear is that if Omicron is a less lethal strain, then people will expect that Omicron could bring. I think that that's exactly what people are going to start thinking. But then it mutates again and becomes lethal and vaccine resistant. So I think that the chances of us encountering a variant that is more vaccine resistant than the Omicron one, it seems like Omicron is fairly vaccine resistant. I think the chances of us encountering something that is even more vaccine resistant than that is pretty high. Yeah. But the chances of us of you getting a variant that are is like really significantly more lethal and things like that is actually quite low. Because what happens is it's the more it transfers to people, the less lethal it's going to be. Because if it's really lethal and it really hits people hard, then they don't go out, they don't transfer. So it's actually less likely that a more severe variant comes along. And just what you're seeing here with Omicron is just the perfect example, right? It transmits more widely, but the cases that you get aren't as severe. And in particular, I think the key with Omicron here is that not nearly as many people get it in their lungs, which is a key thing to note because it's getting it in your lungs that kills you, right? People want to talk reality. Wait until it hits them that the vaccinated can and are spreading the virus without knowing it because the vaccine mitigates system so well. At least for unvaccinated person, 99% of the time, your ass is going to know you got it. Yeah. Like the thing that bothers me so much about what we see during the pandemic, everybody comes in and they say, follow the science. Well, okay, first of all, there's like the science is a thing. Uh, like that phrase to me doesn't make any sense because science is a process. So if you're telling me to follow the process, then are you telling me that I need to start conducting my own experiments and collecting? That doesn't make any sense, right? No. So science is a process that is very effective at producing empirical evidence. Mhm. Okay, so if you're going to follow something, we should follow the best available empirical evidence that we have. And what I continue to see during this pandemic is politicians saying things that are not in line with the best available empirical evidence, and they do it all the time. And then people turn around and they say, well, only and there are some people that are also not following the empirical evidence and are saying crazy stuff, right? There were some people that were saying that like coronavirus doesn't even exist, that it's like you can't isolate it and that it's not actually a virus and that um it's all just made up. Like literally there are people that think that it really is truly 100% made up. Okay? And that's not in line with the science either. And so what these people do is the politicians is they'll use these wackos They have no clue what's going on to undermine anybody else that is contradicting what the government is saying. Um, and like for the average person, it's like it's you just follow what your local leaders are saying and you completely trust them and it's fine. But for like somebody in my position where I have to try and make financial decisions off of this, and I'm also looking at how other countries are reacting to it and everything, and I can see the contradictions between how different states handle it and stuff. And yeah, there are situations where they're saying stuff that's not in like there have been situations where social media networks or politicians directly contradict the CDC. And then when you point out what the CDC says, they call you a denier or something. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And so like the thing is, I trust empirical evidence. Like that's the whole point. The whole point of empirical evidence is like we as you and the scientific process of developing empirical evidence, right? Is that we as humans really make mistakes and people often just make stuff up. So if you really want to know the truth of something, you should have that empirical evidence there in front of you to be able to examine and see for yourself that it's true. And then there's all of these people that are basically like, well, if you're looking at the empirical evidence and trying to make your own determinations about these things for yourself, you're an extremist, yada 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 yada. It's like they're actually attacking you if you're trying to use, you're trying to look at the evidence. We're not really arguing. Well, yeah, we're not really arguing. I'm just ranting, right? Yeah, we're not having a debate at anything. I'm just kind of ranting about it. I it, so like I trust empirical evidence. I don't trust what a politician is going to tell me about empirical evidence, right? That's very contradictory to the whole point of having empirical evidence. You know what I mean? So 99% of people only have their facts from the media. I mean, I don't know. It really is bothersome to me, the kinds of things that can. Oh, so can I tell you another kind of like ugh? So it's completely. I want to shift gears here, but this is something that I wanted to rant about today. Okay, so in the Facebook groups, oh man, you know that when I talk about the Facebook futures trading groups, that you know that I'm gonna say talk about some crazy people, right? Like, I listen. If you love the Facebook groups, it's not a bash on you, okay? But the most uninformed people in the futures trading space are the people in the Facebook groups, bar none. Like seriously, the futures trading subreddit is actually pretty intelligent. The day trading subreddit is, but they're trading stocks, so it's like whatever. This is a different game, anyways. But the Facebook groups, oh my gosh, they say some of the dumbest things. And there's this sentiment going on around right now, that is actually quite popular. So it's not just the Facebook groups. Like I read this on Zero Hedge all the time. And then people on the Facebook groups just like repeat it and like they don't even know what they're talking about. Yeah, Facebook has trading groups. That's a warning right there. Yeah. It's a red flag right there. Yeah, it is. Okay, so here's the phrase that I absolutely despise, okay? Every interest rate hike cycle ends in a recession. No fucking duh. Of course, because the reason that you stop increasing rates and you start reducing rates is because a recession happens. In fact, if you go back and you look at the data, the Federal Reserve usually starts reducing rates before the economy enters into what we would call a recession, like that qualifies as a recession, which is like two quarters of negative growth or whatever, right? They usually reduce rates before the recession comes. So they're trying to make this argument that raising rates is really bad and it's going to cause the stock market to crash, because every time that you raise rates, it causes the stock market to crash. And I'm like, that is not how it works. That's like saying that every time that you get into a car crash, you were braking. So we need to take brakes out of cars. Right? You see how like ridiculous the logic is? It's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, raising interest rates too high can cause a recession, but not necessarily. Early on, like in the 60s, they like the kind of the first interest rate hiking cycle that went on for like 10 years, right? Like an interest rate hiking cycle can be a long time. And when the first interest rate hike starts, there's usually still many, many years before we reach a top. So all these people are trying to be like, oh, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates. That means it's a reason to sell. It's just so dumb. But to me, it's not just that it's so dumb. It's like they're trying to manipulate you. You know, why would you present it that way unless you're trying to manipulate people? Because it's just not an accurate representation. It's mixing up cause and effect. The front of your car also gets all mangled in accidents if we had cars with no front. It's just like really, really, really flawed logic that I see, right? Yeah, there's some people saying that if you're vaccinated, you don't get the booster, you lose the passport. Well, I mean, I kind of get the argument. I like here's the thing is that it really at some point there's all sorts of things that we're saying or that people are arguing about where people are wrong, they're spreading misinformation or they're just fear mongering, okay? But when you put everything in its proper place and you really get down to it, it's an argument about freedom versus safety, right? It really is. Um, if the government comes in and says you can't go outside unless you're fully vaccinated and you've had boosters, well then, yeah, probably it will save lives. Something you got to understand about Fauci and his ilk is that these guys at the CDC would have you masking up in public and all of these things um, forever and well before the pandemic happened. Like they've just been kind of waiting for something like this to happen so that they could make their case that, hey, if we do this and this and this, a lot less people will die. Because that's just the world that they live in, right? But like what freedoms are you giving up in, for that safety? And what are the real consequences of losing those freedoms? I think, is coming back to a larger thing that I'm starting to realize that I don't think is very common and is kind of like my gospel that I'm trying to share, right? And that I'm hoping that you guys will learn and turn around and also share to people because I think that it will progress us as a society. Um, Financial markets are not efficient. It's just the cold hard fact. They're relatively efficient. But during the whole 1980s and when we were fighting against the Soviet Union and everything, the whole argument was that, markets are efficient and that's why capitalism works and communism doesn't work. And I think that was the wrong conclusion. I think capitalism works because it gives people freedom. Markets are not. I mean, they're relatively efficient compared to alternatives. Government is incredibly not efficient, right? But financial markets in and of themselves are not that efficient, and it's contingent on us to do everything that we can to try and improve their efficiency. And we're on the front lines of that battle. determining what things are worth and everything, right, is very much has to do with that. Finding informational inefficiencies and arbitraging them out of the markets, right? No, what made capitalism great, what makes it effective is because it's the most free. So if we're to extend that to a battle for global dominance against China, right? Um, that kind of presents that battle in a different light, because people would come down and say, well, the reason that capitalism is so effective is because financial markets are efficient, and um, you would suppose that that would mean that the U.S. financial markets will be more efficient than Chinese financial markets, and I don't think that that's just the case. I think that there's a lot of things that go into it. And we as a country really need to start looking at the things that are going on in the financial markets and think about how we might need to restructure the financial markets in order to make them more efficient. The biggest one that I think needs to happen is that they need to change the mark to market rules. So you get too much margin off of the mark to market rules. It should factor in the cost of you executing. Um, that when you sell all of those options is going to have an impact on the market. That should be factored into the margin that they're giving you. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see these ridiculous distortions in the markets, and that's going to hurt us competitively against a competitor like China, right? On the split side, though, where is the actual competitive edge that we get against China? In the United States, we have freedom, and in China, they won't. They'll clamp down, and you can see how it's happening in China too. By the way, right? They're restricting freedom of countries in China, and every time that they do, it hampers their stock market, right? So, as it comes down to vaccines, I get really concerned when I see the safety argument seemingly winning out against the freedom argument, particularly when it comes down to um, small businesses staying open. Right? We're reducing, we're making it really tough for small. So there's this place in Centerville, and I don't know the full story, but is a Dairy Queen, and it was like used to be the most successful Dairy Queen in the United States, or one of the top five. And every time that you go down to that Dairy Queen at night, the drive-through is like 20 cars long. And but I think that the owners were kind of tired of the supply shortages, and they were getting old and they didn't want to deal with it anymore. So they just closed it and sold the building. So there's not a Dairy Queen there anymore. And you really got to feel for these small businesses. Like, it's got to be super frustrating coming in and feeling like that the government is actively undermining your ability to run a business, you know? That's not going to make us more competitive against China. It's going to make us less competitive against China. We need those small businesses to create competition. Mm, 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 mm. What is it? That's largely trumped up anti-science narrative. No, 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 no. Like I'm saying, my point on that was that the people that live in that world, that the world pandemic, right? These guys have been saying for decades now, like, oh, there's going to be a pandemic and it's really going to screw everybody over, and we should just be forcing everybody to wear masks all the time and do all of these things. Because see, they don't understand. They understand epidemiology. They don't understand politics, right? They don't understand that asking people to do that has really severe social consequences. For instance, children are not learning as well, right? We don't allow anybody to go to school, and the kids don't learn as well learning from home. They don't. And the kids don't learn as well when they're all wearing masks and they can't see people's facial expressions. They just don't, right? And I don't think that these people factor these things in. All they see is um, the math behind a pandemic and say if we do X, Y, and Z, then we can reduce the number of people that die. And they don't see the negative consequences of it. And they don't see that, there has to be a certain amount of balance. Of course, you want to save people's lives, but um, it's how many lives are you going to save in return for giving China complete control over the world? The masks don't stop viruses. Well, I think that one's probably still up for debate. There certainly is some compelling evidence that it doesn't work. That people are just kind of downplaying or ignoring. But well, if the masks were sophisticated enough material to actually block the virus, if everybody was wearing N92 masks or whatever the deal was, it would be a very different thing, right? But I think what one of the problem, yeah, N95 masks. But a part of the problem here is that we get stuck on certain things. Like you're saying, it's impossible for them to stop transmission. You're right. And the only reason you're bringing that up is because there was a really large contingent of people in the politics that really were acting like that they were just going to completely crush the virus and kill it, and that was always an insane idea. And they haven't been forced to acknowledge that policy's failure, but it's not really particularly relevant in the long run to like what should we do, right? But it's kind of like it seems to me with Omicron that things are going to what we said that they were going to be anyways. That people you're not going to stop it, and that people are going to have to learn to live with it. You know, I mean, it may well be the case that double masking does reduce transmission somewhat, but it maybe the effect is just not strong enough to really solve the problem. Because I think that all of the evidence suggests that it does block virus particulates from going out. It reduces the amount of viral load in the air, so it should have some effect, right? We need to do what's best for the economy. So well, what's best for the economy is a very okay. So like if we were to go back to March of 2020 and we had said no, we're not going to do anything. We'll develop the masks, but we're not going to have any kind of mitigation strategy. We're just going to let it blow through the population. Okay, the pandemic probably would have been shorter, but the economic effect would have been devastating. There would have been a strong negative economic impact. A lot of people would go from this perspective of any kind of virus mitigation thing is bad for the economy and therefore we shouldn't do them, but not doing anything is bad for the economy too. And again, like what is that balance? How do you calculate that? Nobody really bothers to try and sort that out. Yeah. I don't think that Fauci is a joke. Like let's be fair. He's been right on some things and he's been wrong on some things. I think the problem with Fauci is twofold. Number one, he plays the political game when he's really supposed to be a public health advisor. But the reality is he's getting all of his talking points from staff, and he's playing political games, and that's proven. Like, we have all of these emails from them going back and like saying, "Oh, okay, here's this research study that came out. What can we do to you know argue against this research study and downplay it?" Like, they were outright playing politics, right? So that's number one, and number two is that he wants to live in a the pandemic lasts forever kind of world, which is also politically unviable. And so I'm just kind of wonder if at some point Biden's going to get rid of him. I don't personally know anybody who buried their heads in the sand. I don't know anybody personally either. Certainly see a lot of people online saying stuff though, right? But it just goes back to like, why is this conversation relevant again, right? It's how, oh, okay. You know what? That is a very clear um rate lock on an auction day in the 10-year that we kind of have to heed, and I think that I should take some profits here if I can. Because they might push back up a little bit and give us some opportunities to get better spots. But anyways, the reason it's relevant is because of the whole Omicron thing, because it's like this is the same thing all over again as we go and we look at the evidence, and it kind of suggests that the impact on the economy isn't going to be all that strong. But then you got these people that are super scared about it, and there's traders that are super scared about it and trading the stock market off of that anyways. Even though all of the evidence that we have suggests that the economic impact of Omicron isn't going to be very significant. Now, in all fairness, it's not just Omicron. I think that we keep looking at some of these risk off moves as just Omicron. There is a contingent of economists that think that there's going to be a slowdown next year simply because of the credit impulse and supply chains, easing up and all that sort of stuff. And that's probably a significant part of things too. So here's an instance where the Ninja Trader simulator is probably more stingy than real life. That's not bad. What was yesterday's high? If I could get us above yesterday's high, once 16 was kind of the spot that was like, okay, sure gets our average price up there though. That's pretty good. Well, if you got COVID and then you have the boosters, then your immunity is pretty solid from the research that we have. Like the chances of you, if you've had COVID and then you've gotten all three shots, your chances of getting sick, like severely ill from it, are like practically nil. You might still catch it, but like the chances of you dying from it are like practically nil. Dogecoin got beat to space by was it SHIB? I haven't looked at those in a while, just because Bitcoin was down, like everything was down. The kind of difficult to sort out how good or bad some are doing. Dogecoin is down 10% in the past 7 days. It's not terrible though. It's just kind of where it was, down. See, I don't know if it's fair to call it a pandemic of the vaccinated. I really think that what you're seeing in a lot of the stats right now is two things. Number one, most people are vaccinated. So even though um, being vaccinated significantly reduces the chances of you catching it, because literally 95% of the people are vaccinated, most of the cases are going to end up being in vaccinated people just because of that, right? That's the first thing. The second thing that I think that we are seeing right now, particularly in the UK, and I think that we'll start to see it in the United States, is that testing is going up. So when you start testing a lot, you start catching a lot of cases, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the severity of those cases, right? That's why, like, at this point, I'm not sure if outright infections is really the useful metric anymore. It's going to be much more about hospitalizations. You know what I mean? What do you mean by most? 95%, like 90%, 70. I think that over the whole US, that it's like 70% of people are vaccinated, right? But in some areas in the Northeast, it's like 95% of people are vaccinated, right? So you go to these places and there's towns that are having Omicron outbreaks, and most of the cases are among people that are vaccinated. Well, that's probably the case because, again, if you have 100 people and only five of them are unvaccinated, even if all five of those people caught it, right? You would probably get more than five people catch it among the rest of the population, right? They might not die, but you get what I mean? Of those 90 people that are vaccinated, what are the chances that more than five of them catch it, right? So you're going to have a situation where the unvaccinated population has a very, very high prevalence of the virus, but the actual number ends up being less than the number of people that were vaccinated caught it, even though the percentage of vaccinated people that caught it is extremely low, right? Because if it was only a 5-6% of vaccinated people caught it, that would still be more people catching it than the vaccinated. Does that make sense? Um, but again, I think that the testing thing and could cause some governments to make the wrong decisions. Essentially, that was that 26 was, or that right there was like 20K. They went through there. You think research, but of course, the researchers are telling you that, but people on the internet don't seem to understand that. This is the thing that I keep seeing conservatives saying. It's like, oh, the vaccine doesn't work. Look at how many people with the vaccine are catching it. And I'm like, well, because so many people have the vaccine, it's like 5% infection rate against the vaccine. That's really good. That's really good for a vaccine. Because, oh man, hold on. I didn't like actually choke there, but it's like my body overreacts to it. It's like an asthma thing or something. I don't think that I have asthma, but maybe I do. Anyways, no. And I think the thing that people aren't seeing when they say like, oh, most of the cases are amongst people with the vaccine doesn't really work. What they're not realizing is that if the vaccine didn't work, the number of cases that we would be having would be like 20 times worse. And then, yeah, if we lived in a world where there had been no mitigation efforts and there was no vaccine, it would be pretty dire it would be pretty ugly. It would be, like it wouldn't be like healthy people are dying necessarily, but like the economic impacts and societal impacts on it would be comparable to the plague. Okay. Places that are highly vaccinated are now seeing record numbers of hospitalizations, which is a statistical sense. But I don't know if I still think that that can be a distortion of the statistics, though, Caleb, because the number of like the infections per 100,000 people and everything, or like hospitalizations per 100,000 people, I don't think are that the prevalence is necessarily higher. It's just that the Omicron variant is being spread further. That's why I'm saying that um, the number of infections isn't going to be as useful of a metric anymore. Just know a lot of people are going to catch Omicron, right? But what is going to matter is the number of hospitalizations. And you're probably going to see a lot of hospitalizations. I don't know if it's like a panic sort of a thing. From everything that I'm seeing, the amount of hospitalizations, it shouldn't have an economic impact. But you're still going to see a lot of them just because of how widely it's being spread. And those numbers do not mean that the vaccine doesn't work. And just think, okay, if you get X thousand hospitalizations, just realize that if the vaccine had never come out, it would be 20 times worse. Maybe we got a longer bull run thanks to the vaccine. I don't know. So from I would really like to see the world where the timeline where the pandemic didn't happen and see how the economy turned out, because there's a lot of people that really thought that we were due for another crash. And it's kind of hard to take that seriously because people have been saying they were due for a crash every year since 2008. That's my whole career has been people saying, "Oh, a crash is it's gonna happen. It's finally gonna," and then it never happens. And this whole thing about the Federal Reserve having to do a mid-cycle policy adjustment, and people are like, nope, it's gonna cause a recession, because as soon as they start lowering interest rates, that's when a recession happens. Here again, mixing up cause and effect and everything else. And so if they had done a mid-cycle adjustment, they'd reduced, and then things were fine, and we went on another 10-year run where they slowly raised interest rates, but things were still relatively deflation. Like the good scenario that we were looking at the beginning of 2010 or 2020 before the pandemic happened, that would shut up a lot of people out there. Things that they say about central bank policy and economics and everything, it would have answered a lot of questions. But then the pandemic came along, and we'll never find out. We'll have to run into that situation again. Vaccines are supposed to stop the infection. These vaccines are leaky, meaning they're a failure. Um, I don't know. I don't think that it's the case that a vaccine is supposed to be like, if you're vaccinated, you can't catch it, you can't transmit it. I don't think that's necessarily true. It should reduce that, but I don't think that it's supposed to be 100% foolproof. Now, how leaky the vaccine actually is, it's like I don't actually know, so I can't. How can we compare that? Show me some numbers. Show me some numbers that suggest that the vaccine is not very effective compared to other vaccines. I've never gotten asthma like if I'm running and then I don't get that, right? But if I like drink and I'm drinking water and it doesn't just 100% cleanly go down, it's like my body overreacts to it. Okay. Oh, by the way, We had that huge order at 26.5, and I took some profits there. They have fallen down through a little bit further. There's another big order. Um, I don't know. So I think I've only seen one situation ever where you got a really big order like that, and it continued and it became a trend day. It's probably more likely that we're going to have another little extension down below, maybe even to let's say 23.5, only to then bounce and rotate around that price. That's probably more likely. Mike Minor Vinny. Yeah, you're right. Vaccines have never been 100% effective. But I don't know if you guys really. So let's do a poll. How can we say this? Will what will the impact of Omicron? What will the economic impact of Omicron be? It will create a recession. Mild impact. I'll add 2 more options. No impact at all. Is that enough? Three options? Because I've been trading off of it will have no economic impact. Oil is stressing me out with these moves. Oh yeah. Well, oil's up on its highs right now, and they're heading up into the 71 territory again. So, I kind of took that trade off of that oil was going to go higher and everything. But probably the best thing to do over there in the options space would be to be like selling condors and stuff, right? Like you're getting a lot of volatility in oil, but then it's not actually moving. Okay, we got there. The poll is up. So pull up your YouTube window and vote in the poll. So you think, but why do you think that? That's what I'm getting at is like what is the piece of data here about the Omicron variant that suggests that it's going to have a significant um economic impact? Let me say that again. What is the data point about the Omicron variant that we think shows that the Omicron will have a significant economic impact? There would be a fight like, did we F up by tapering? Nah. So let's put some things in perspective for people, right? Because I really think that the layperson and frankly even a lot of money managers and people in finance have been conditioned by the Fed over the last 10 years and are making a lot of assumptions about interest rate policy that are just frankly a little bit crazy. Okay. So um rising interest rates, for instance, affect tech stocks, right? You'll notice as the interest rate goes up that it tends to hurt the tech stocks, right? Oh, by the way, there's the opening move on the S&P 500 is pretty bullish. Okay. So the point at which growth names are no longer attractive is 3% on the 10-year, right? Just keep that number in mind, right? What are we at right now? 1.48. Okay. So interest rates literally have to double before growth stocks are no longer attractive. All right. Now, even with the Federal Reserve increasing their pace of the taper and everything else like that, the treasury market is still having a hard time getting above 1.5, right? So tapering definitely has an impact on the market because those are orders that otherwise would be there, right? Those are orders that would be there otherwise. But when you put it in perspective, is taking away the absolutely insane, unprecedented amount of stimulus that, from a good amount of evidence suggests, is way more than was ever actually necessary because we didn't really understand how what the impact of it was and how to calculate it and everything. Okay, so we pumped way more money into the economy than we needed to, and now we pull away from putting all of that stimulus in the economy, and that's like the end of the world. Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. If they were actually raising rates, it'd be a different thing, but just reducing the taper, nah. That alone shouldn't. I mean, the markets are sensitive to it, don't get me wrong, so you don't want to necessarily, like, it would be really bad for them to just completely stop purchases tomorrow. The interest rate market would experience such an insane far shock. It'd be very bad for markets, right? But tapering it off, I think that they should be just fine with the tapering things off. Raising interest rates in March or June, well, by the time that we get there, it will be really clear what should happen. There's a lot of people that really seem to think that the economy is going to drag now all of a sudden. I don't think that we're going to be in like double digit growth like we were last year. Okay. And we may have difficulty getting back to the long run GDP numbers that we're supposed to have. So it's still going to be like a low growth environment. But you can see over the last 10 years that the stocks did okay in that low growth environment, right? Um, so by the time we get to March, it'll be really clear whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. And if it is a good idea, these rates are probably going to have to catch up. There's probably going to be some pretty big moves in interest rates simply because of how they've been so stubborn about coming down. Which part of that is the Omicron thing, and people really don't think that they're going to raise rates. But a part of that is also that we're like in a systemic short in the treasury market. So everything is like uh, everything when we move up, it's short covering, right? No, I'm not saying I'm calling for a bear market. I would say lower growth, but this doesn't mean negative growth, right? It'll be like this. It'll be like, let's go back to trading view. By the way, when I was sitting here looking at 4.7, that seemed like a bad trade. We actually probably could have made $10 off of that just because the 30-year got slammed so hard. Okay. So if we go to the S&P 500 and we go look at it on like a daily basis, right? And I mean, we've really got to go back, right? We've really got to go back. Woo. Okay, so here's 2008, right? These little let's just close this window. Okay. These things were like that was the euro crisis, for instance, right? So what you would continue to see is like everything's good, and then there would be some sort of a crisis, something that normally should like absolutely crush and cause a recession, but because there was so much monetary stimulus out there, it did that, right? Okay. But just note that during all of this time that a lot of the growth numbers weren't really very good, right? Particularly during this 2016 to 2018 time period. was like the actual GDP numbers weren't all that good, but stocks still did well. So I just want you to look at the larger picture. We could still be in a low growth environment like we were for most of the last 10 years. And that's not necessarily bad for stocks, right? But the other issue that we have now is that this is just a little bit crazy, right? There might need to be a 20% decline in the markets at some point. I'm just not convinced that it's Omicron or the Federal Reserve raising, or one of the things is like if it's the Federal Reserve raising interest rates that causes valuations to come back to earth. I don't think that the Federal Reserve goes and says, "Oh, well, the market panicked. I guess we can't do it anymore." I think that would be a reading of, okay, like we're finally getting things back to balance. This is a good thing. Let's have a 20% decline so that we can actually have like longer run growth now. I don't know. But again, like everybody's conditioned to think in this the Federal Reserve never does it sort of a world. And uh, I think that the base inflation is changed. There was never a time from that I've ever been watching this since 2008 to 2020. Okay, during that whole 12-year run, there was never a time where like there was evidence in the numbers of high inflation coming in. That never happened, right? It looks like the market has been hyped up. I mean, it kind of has been. So the interesting thing about the indexes is that we're like we have a bull market in indexes, but a bear market in stocks, right? Because a lot of stocks have declined like 40%. How much are you happy making if you trade? I think that if I make anything that I'm happy, but a $20 winner in the micro treasuries is a pretty good trade. If we had taken the spot six and taken it off at then let's just say we took it off where it is right now and made $15, that would be a not too bad of a play given the daily context. But again, let's just note, okay, there was some insane icebergs at 27, 26 half. There was a little extension a little bit below, and now we're just kind of chilling there. So it would be easy to think. Do you see how like this is just such a good example of where being informed can be so useful to you, right? Now, how you're using information and liquidity together, because now we know like there is definitely a liquidity hole at 26 half and something going on there, something that you just would not know about unless you had the DOM up, right? And this is an instance where because we're informed, we know that there's a 20-year auction today. We know why we're seeing that order flow because that's the kind of order flow that you should expect to see on an auction day. So, given everything that we know, I can't necessarily say like I take a trade here and I'm going to make money off of it from here or anything like that. But it does kind of allow me to like rule out some things. Like it was no longer, I was kind of letting this come down. As soon as we saw that, it was no longer appropriate for me to try and really, really let everything ride. It was like, this is a good spot to take a few contracts off because the chance of it coming back up and maybe getting a better spot pretty high there. Good chat. Thanks for stopping by, Killer. How about 25? Yeah, that's fine. I tell you what, and when I'm trading ES and I make like 100, 200 bucks, those that I'm super happy about it, But at the moment, my mind is really not in the like, okay, we got to make money on this sort of a thing. I think that the less I'm trying to chase that, like I definitely want to be take advantage of the risk. Like I feel like that there have been points where I really should have been pushing it and I didn't. But as soon as I get into that mindset of I've made X much and I want to, like I'm chasing the money, you start making poor decisions. You really do. You've just got to let, um, what you make is what you make. This is why trying to day trade for a living is really such a fraught goal. I'm really not sure that that's the goal that most people should be going after. I think it's probably more healthy and more likely to lead you to success to say this is a hobby, and if I'm making any money or I'm covering my expenses, I'm happy. Can you tell me what is a market buy order and a market sell order in the DOM? Oh, sure. Well, so first you want to know these columns here. So I'll highlight this. First, you got to see the limit orders, right? This is limit sell orders and this is limit buy orders, right? Blue column is limit buy, orange red column is limit sell, right? So these two columns in the middle are the orders matching up against those, right? So this right here, those the right column in the middle, those are market buys hitting into the limit sells. And similarly, this other column right here are market sells hitting into limit buys. I discussed this in my first video about the DOM, right? So you haven't watched that video, you should definitely watch that, all of those. And there's more coming next year. When can we buy an index? I'm tired of waiting for a bear market. So if and it depends on what context, right? Like really you want to be in a situation where you're contributing money to an index every month. Like you regularly contributing money into the index is going to make a bigger difference than timing the market will. Okay. So you work for somebody, make sure that you're maxing out the 401k contribution. Like the company will usually match what you contribute up to a certain amount. At the very least, you want to be maxing that out. Okay. I don't think about that stuff because, like it's in a retirement account, but it's going to matter to you, right? Trading is a great hobby. I can tell you sometimes it's a shitty hobby. Yeah, well, what can I say? I think that if we get ourselves like, when I'm not trying to hit home runs, like this is the thing that's frustrating to me is I'm sitting here like I'm doing pretty good, but there have been some situations where I could have made a lot more money and I should have swung for it and I didn't, right? Because there was these times where I was right, interest rates rose considerably, and I only made like $50 off of it when I should have been making like 300, right? So then I swung at it and I just failed so hard, right? So now I'm back to okay, like we just need to relax and just make the commissions. Just pay for the data flow. So if there are many markets sell orders, some market is gonna fall. Well, I mean, when it ticks up, in order for it to tick up, we would need to buy out all of the limit sell orders that are at that price. Like at 26 half, there's 1,500 there right now. In order to make price tick up, 1,500 orders would have to buy into 26 half. But then, there's all of those complications about the resting liquidity isn't the latent liquidity. And so that's why you kind of want to watch how much trades each time it goes. If we tick up at 26 half and it's 1,500, it's like, okay. And then what happens here when it's bid? It gets ticked back down. Okay, fine. Okay, so there only 738 went. So there's a liquidity hole at 26.5 as predicted, right? So, but then we could come up here and we could say, okay, what if we ticked up at 26.5 and then we ticked up at 27 again, and maybe even 27.5, right? And how much traded there? Only 500 traded at 27 and only 500 traded at 27.5. That's not a lot, right? So why is it moving up? Why is it not taking very much volume? The market makers are pulling their orders, right? These guys are canceling. It's showing 3,200, but it only took 700 to trade up. So what does that mean? Well, the first thing that I would be looking at in a situation like that is I'd be looking for a correlation. I'd be looking and saying like, okay, well, is the 6J doing something right now? Is it the core? Is there a currency move that's causing that to happen? Right? But or another possibility is that there's like a news headline that I missed. There's informed trading. The market makers know that there's news and that's why they're pulling their orders, right? Whereas on the other hand, if it took like a lot, let's say the other extreme, it trades through 26.5 and 27 and it's like 6,000 contracts to push through both of them. Well, now all of a sudden we kind of got a different issue because the market makers, they are really willing to take contracts on. They're really willing to add to their inventory in that location, right? But there was a lot of market orders hitting into it as well. So here again, I'm going to be thinking, okay, well, why would the limit orders be like that? Well, in this situation, I think it makes a lot of sense for market makers to hold liquidity at 27 and 27.5 on the theory that it's going to come back to 26.5 and they should be able to exit there, right? But why would so many market orders be hitting into it? And now I'm going to be trying to find out that why is that order flow coming in? Maybe there's news, right? Maybe they're just puking. I don't know, but like you know what I mean. Like what we're doing is we're looking at individual order flows, and then we're trying to form theories about what are the causes of those order flows. And preferably, what we would like is we'd like to be able to predict a particular order flow and see evidence of that order flow coming in the DOM to confirm the trade that we want to make and find an optimal location to take that trade. Today, I didn't expect as aggressive of a down move. So this order flow that pushed us down at the beginning of the session, I didn't necessarily expect to see that. But something that I did expect to see is that it's an auction, and sometimes you'll see really big icebergs on the auction that get us stuck there. And that's exactly what we saw. So now, because I already had this short on, now that we got to the spot that we're stuck at, maybe take a few contracts out. If I really want to push it, like if I really think that the auction is going to be bad, then I'll let it come back up here and I'll add some more contracts a little bit higher in anticipation of the index collapsing not the index, the future collapsing when the auction happens. But because it's a holiday week, I'm not so interested in making that big of a play. And that's how we do it. Identify flows, make predictions, look for those flows in the DOM, find an optimal location to execute. Is that the process? Maybe I need to make a video on just that. Where is the big order on ZF? You're talking about 121.050? Yeah, the 5-year hasn't moved as much today. It's actually, when you look at the micro treasuries, that was a pretty strong move, but then when you think about it in degrees, it was only just what standard move? You're a most genuine person? Thanks. I can't help it. Yeah, help it. Oh man. So yesterday, remember I was talking about these people saying that every interest rate hike cycle ends in a recession and why that's such stupid logic. And so I explained why that was dumb. And this guy made this big long post responding back to me that was really kind of angry, like, you don't know what's going, you people are going to be caught off guard, yada yada yada. But it was really like just reiterating the same nonsense. He didn't actually provide any new information or address any of the things that I said. So I responded to him. I said that you didn't, you just used the same dumb logic again. Right. And his response was like, well, you're kind of mean. And I was like, well, maybe, maybe I am. like, like in a situation like that, it's like, number one, I'm going to call it like I see it, because I don't want people to get these dumb ideas in their heads and then lose money because of something dumb that you said on Facebook. And then number two, it's just like too entertaining to pass up. So does that make me mean? Maybe it does. I don't know. Yeah, I'll keep using mob. What's the meaning? A large group of people acting irrationally. That's what I think of. Wait, who said mob? By the way, we got 15 votes here. Think that that's enough. There's 5 of you that are listening that apparently aren't going to vote, but most of you said no impact. More of you think that there will be a recession than a mild impact, but it's actually pretty well distributed. So, I think I will end the poll there. 16 votes is a good number. You thought it was an acronym? Okay. There we go. Oh, it does a little summary now. Oh, there you go. I feel like that there was something else I wanted to rant about today, but I can't even remember what it was. I feel a little woozy today, so I was able to go to the pharmacy and get my medication, and I felt better, but I don't feel perfect because I don't know. It's kind of it made me really sleepy, and I took a pretty good nap yesterday. Well, in lieu of that, I'm gonna read Twitter here. Okay, what's this? Blockchain as a solution to the Byzantine manager problem. Imagine a group of senior Byzantine managers who need to implement a new system. If managers do not support any ideas, they will be fired for failing to show leadership. Anyone supporting a strategy for implementing the new system knows that if it fails, the other managers that did not support the idea will unite to blame them and crush them. All of the managers know that none of them are capable of predicting what will work. If managers do not support an idea that subsequently succeeds, the supporters of the successful idea will drive them out of the organization for failing to support them. The solution is the solution is to find a strategy that is guaranteed to not work, i.e., the blockchain. Every manager can support the strategy because guaranteed failure means everyone can show leadership with no chance of another faction blaming them for failure or lack of support. Whoa, wait, what? So they have to support an idea. Anyone supporting a strategy for implementing the new system knows that if it fails, the other managers that did not support the idea will unite to blame them and crush them. And all of the managers know that none of them are capable of predicting what will work. Oh, geez. I get it. So you're intentionally failing just so that you can stay in power, basically. That probably does happen a lot. I don't know if that's what's happening in Bitcoin. Let's see here. Plan B. Oh, they're quoting Plan B from June 2023. Stock to flow model is a simple linear regression. Parameters, stats, and bounds are in the article. Everyone can replicate and verify. I will call stock to flow invalidated if we have not reached 100,000 by December this year. We cannot stay at current levels for the rest of the year. Yeah, so it's been invalidated. That's what that means. Well, what I didn't understand is how this Byzantine manager thing certainly would explain why you would see a lot of things happen in government, but I'm not sure it explains why things are happening in Bitcoin. I think that what happens in Bitcoin is just there's fraud and people are attracted to it. If you get a large enough fraud, there's going to be a lot of people just begging to get in on it. Yeah. Sierra Chart's new Teton order routing service is now available via EdgeClear. By the way, let's do another poll here. Should we do another poll? This is something well, actually, there's a couple of things that we can do. Let's do the poll first. What platform are you using? What platform are you using? Jigsaw, NinjaTrader. So if you're using both Jigsaw and NinjaTrader, just select a Jigsaw. Edge, what is it called? Edge Pro X. Edge Pro X. Am I only allowed to have 4? So I'm only gonna put 4 on there. I want more than that. I want 5. Nobody's using just NinjaTrader. So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Jigsaw / NinjaTrader. Then this one's gonna be ACR charts. Other. I'm assuming that I'm going to bet that most of the other are going to be like interactive brokers, but large enough Ponzi scheme, I would call it. Yeah. It's kind of funny and interesting though that risks and evidence of fraud and anything like that really does not seem to influence people against investing in a thing. Although I do think that the Bitcoin market may have turned here. Like, I'm not saying that like we've reached a high, but what I mean by that is like public opinion is turning against it. Like, there's the people that are in it, and then there's all of these other people that are potentially persuadable. And a large majority of those people that are potentially persuadable have turned and hate Bitcoin now. And I can see that change in sentiment over the last quarter is very, very clear. If you go and you start mentioning Bitcoin on Reddit now, they just absolutely hate it. Well, the 10-year coming back to 25 half there, taking a look at 25, but not much trading into it yet. We may get a collision. I don't know. It's I think the most likely thing is that we continue to rotate around 26 half, but there's a small probability that there's like a big collision at 25 and it continues pushing down, and whoever put that rate lock at 26 half ends up really hating life. They're putting a little bit of pressure on them at 25 there. The S&P 500 sold on the open and but it's been like limited. So that's kind of interesting. Only 2 votes so far. Come on, guys. I'm going to open up your YouTube window and tell me what platform you're using. So I've been looking at what other platforms we should put our indicators on. Now I think I'm going to make a few changes to the indicators to maybe make them because the way that they are right now, there's a lot of like series underneath that I hide and stuff because I wanted to make it flexible. But I don't think that I made it in a way that like makes sense to people about where I'm going to find which thing. So I want to change it around a little bit so that it's like these ones are market orders, these ones are limit orders adding, and these ones are limit orders canceling, and these ones are like the balance between the limit orders that are out there right now, or filtering on those. So it, basically, I'm going to take like two indicators and turn it into like four indicators or something like that. Um, but then no, I didn't say that. I was saying I'm going to put Jigsaw and NinjaTrader together because one, there's not very many people just trading off of Jigsaw NinjaTrader and using the NinjaTrader DOM on its own. But then number two is that for the purposes of what I'm asking, you guys that are trading NinjaTrader Jigsaw are all one category because that category is you're trading what I use. You're using what I use. But I'm interested in particular. So I've been looking at Edge Pro X and seeing about putting in or creating the indicators for Edge Pro X. I think that there's a couple of challenges in doing that. Some things they don't need. They have a pretty good spread indicator already in there. But they don't. I think that I could do some really good things with the histograms, like the level 2 stuff. Um, when I first read through their documentation, I didn't find anything for doing the level 2 stuff, but it looks like it may be possible. I also don't have much for like being able to draw my own custom kind of chart. I'm not seeing how you do that in their framework. So I'm kind of looking at that, but I've kind of been wondering if it would be worthwhile to create the indicators for Edge Pro X. So if you're not familiar with Edge Pro X, it's Motive Wave, and it's the Edge Clear broker, who are really nice guys, and I keep in touch with them from time to time. That's the platform that they've made, and from time to time they'll ask me, you know, they'll talk to me and see what kind of things we can do together, because I kind of feel like I would like to see more people go over to EdgeClear, for instance. But like, how do you convince people to do it? Like, if you're a broker and you're trying to get more people to come over to you as a broker, how do you convince them to do that? Because none of you guys care about that stuff. Like, all you care about is my commissions are as low as possible, which means you probably go to AMP, right? And the only thing that you really can do is like have a nice platform, right? And if it's a cheap platform and it's a good platform, then that can be like a big plus for you, right? Well, the Edge Pro X platform is okay. It's okay. And I feel like that if we added all of our indicators to it, that it would be a pretty good platform to use, right? So what I'm trying to sort out. But then the other thing is that I know a lot of you use Sierra charts, and like you've always been asking me to make the indicators in Sierra charts. So what I'm trying to sort out is, would it make more sense for me to make them for Sierra charts because that's what more of you guys use? Or would it make more sense to go with Edge Pro X and try and nurture the relationship we have with brokers? Right? One billionaire. Oh, hey, did they trade through it? They didn't trade through it. They the big order isn't really there anymore just because they've eaten into it, and you're still seeing liquidity get added at 25. But there's a pretty big iceberg at 25.5 as well. Given that we've already seen level breaks today that were successful, it's possible that we might see another level break at 25 here, but it's not in the situation where it would really be clear that that would be the case. Wonder if their margins have improved. I don't Oh, you know what though? Like, man, that your comment there, like, I mean, for you, I'm sure it's not a big deal, but all of the other brokers give you margin that they shouldn't. Like really, when it comes down to it, I feel like all the other brokers give you margin that they shouldn't. Like for micro contracts, that's probably maybe I'm just dead wrong. Maybe I'm just dead wrong, but I feel that if you're trading micro contracts, that you should be using like what the full initial margin should be, and that you shouldn't be using day trading margin on them. This is just me. Yeah, if you're not using one of those 3, 4 platforms, then just put yourself under other. That's fine. Those are the platforms that are like on my radar, and I would be interested in doing something right now. I know that probably a lot of you are going to fit into that other category. Like interactive brokers, for instance, is pretty popular. Say good advice, yeah. Anyways, so Edge Clear has margins that are much safer, and you know, probably you shouldn't be making use of the margin that the other guys give you. Okay, so 7,000 has ended up trading at 25, but they did get through that price, and some have traded at 24 half. So I would say there was a pretty strong liquidity hole at 27. Um, Even though they've broken, that liquidity hole is still there, so there's still a chance that we get sucked back up into it. But there's a pretty decent amount of sell orders out there today. So the flows have really changed around here in the treasuries, because last week they were just buying like crazy, right? And now you've just got this really consistent, steady sell. But when you get that's that consistent, steady sell is more scary, right? Anyway, so here's the other thing that I'm doing, right? So one of the things that I come across on TikTok a lot, because there's these people always trying to teach you to be entrepreneurs and everything. So that they're saying that like if you have something that's useful to people, you're obligated to sell it. Like the correct thing to do for society is to sell it. Like there can be situations where giving things out for free is the correct thing. And I think like especially some of the stuff that I made early on that are really kind of like their own isolated things, that putting it out there for everybody to use really was the right thing to do. But when you sell it, then that gives you resources to put into continuing to develop it, right? And so I feel like the obligation is with our indicators is to sell and do as good of a job at selling the indicators as we can, so that we have more resources to continue developing them. So I did go through yesterday and kind of tried to make some changes to the website. Let me show you what I did. Make this a little wider. Doesn't show you the well, there's a little image that shows up here, but it takes a little while to load. So now you've got, there's the free trial link, which shows you the installation. There's the detailed documentation link here, which goes through all the indicators and what they do. Holy smokes, that's crushing treasuries today. Oh, that's a trade that I've had on for like 3 days though, live action. And at one point I had 5 contracts on. So anyways, and then I've added this buy now page. So the installation goes through, if you don't really know how to use NinjaTrader, it goes into how to download and install it, how to add the indicators in, and then purchasing a full license, you go over to the buy page. So on the buy page, you have to get your machine ID. So it shows you how to locate your machine ID. And then there's a little spot right here, and you just buy it through PayPal. It's only $100. Oh, you know what? I should probably change that because it should probably show you how much it is somewhere. Should probably show you how much it is somewhere. Let me see if I can. It'll show in here. Yeah. Okay. There's $100, right? Okay. And then here's the detailed documentation. It'll just show you a bunch of pictures of like some examples and stuff and all of that. So this is where I'm saying like largest resting orders, for instance. Okay, so that's fine. There should be a series for bids and there should be a series for offers is really what should happen. And they should just show up on default. And if you don't want them, you can remove them, right? This is resting order. This should be like resting order balance. And then this one, like a level 2 changes, I'm going to split out to be like, okay, here a level 2 adds, level 2 removes, and then like changes in general is I think what I'm going to change on that one. That way it should be a little bit more clear to you how to get the thing that you want. And then I got these spread candles and everything else like that. I also added pulled prices is in, if you go and you download it right now, the Gabby, the one that like draws a little square when a price has been pulled, which is crazy useful, by the way. That one's in there too, right? So I got it all set up. I need to figure out how to make my button so that it shows you the price. I need to figure out how to change my button so that it shows you the price. But that's what I changed. And I'm only going to put it up for 100. Because I think I'm going to change things to be, because it used to be like elite, and it's like the elite indicators, but I really feel like that these are like essential things. So I'm going to try and push that these are essential indicators that everybody will want to get. That like everybody that has NinjaTrader is, oh, you see here, I got only, I need to change that, huh? I should just say here, full license only $100. That's what I should say there. Actually, let's change that right now, right? What do you guys think? Do you see anything here on the website that you think I should change? That's going to be down here towards the bottom, huh? How about I say full license, only $100. Full license only, ask 100. I think that makes it clear that it's like just a one-time thing. Purchase full lifetime license for only $100. There we go. Let me pull up. What do I use? I always forget what the name of the application that I use to push things up. Let me just pull this. Let me just do this real quick. I'll just do it this way. There we go. So let's look at our poll here. Yeah, most of you are in NinjaTrader and then see your charts. So none of you are using Edge Pro X. Okay. So on that one, then I guess the question is, what would it take What would it take to convince you to move over? Okay, that's good. There aren't any good courses for Ninja Scr Oh, I'm offended that my videos aren't enough. Ninja Trader 8's Ninja Script documentation is really good. Compared to almost everybody else, their documentation is really good. There was somebody but commented on a video the other day that they really hate Ninja Trader, and I'm like, "Well, okay, whatever, it's fine." There's some really nice things about Ninja Trader 8. Sure could probably be better in some respects, though. Okay, so by the way, S&P 500 is turning pretty risk on here, and the treasuries are really, really rocking here. So again, we could have gotten 6, and I was saying, well, if we could get 8. Now they're at 8.5. So rates are increasing quite a bit here, at least today. At least today. I don't know if that's going to continue through the week and into the break. Are we going to miss the rise in rates here because I don't want to trade during, going into the holiday? I don't know, man. Here again, it's like it's really hard for me to be trying to buy into like one spot 487. Although I do think that there's probably a pretty good chance that we'll hit one spot 5 here soon, right? Maybe not today, but and just going back to like where that really big rate lock was and everything, like we've pushed way beyond that. So there's some aggressive selling today, and I'm kind of wondering. You have to wonder now if the guy that rate lock is regretting it, right? Anyways, so I guess the question is really still becomes what would it take to get you to want to move to Edge Pro X? I don't know. I kind of feel like that if we had our indicator suite built into it and like we gave it to them so that like all Edge Clear customers got it, would that maybe, have more people move over there? I'd rather you use Edge Pro X if you're starting out than chalk out a ton of money on a permanent license for some of these other things, right? And would I rather have more people using Edge Pro X than Sierra charts? I think maybe kind of, yeah. Why do you prefer Ninja Trader over Sierra chart? Yeah, so there's kind of two things. First of all, being able to code things in C sharp is a lot easier. There are things that I can, if I'm just thinking about something and I just want to make an indicator with it, I can just whip something up really quick, and it's no big deal in C sharp. But when you want to do it in Sierra charts, it's this whole complicated thing because it's not just like C++ is harder to use. It's like there is like basic things that you're going to be doing in any kind of indicator that is like, for instance, related to order flow that like they probably should have methods that are handling them for you and they don't. And so you're like basically doing everything yourself. It's like every time you do stuff in Sierra charts, you're like reinventing the wheel somewhat. And so because of that, it comes to the real advantage that I think Ninja Trader has over Sierra charts is that Ninja Trader has a much richer ecosystem because of that. And like, here's the thing, like, just think about this for a second. If there is more opportunities in trading informational inefficiencies than there are in trading technical inefficiencies, right? The technical inefficiencies are going to be really hard to find. So, like, what comes with your platform isn't really going to matter a whole lot, right? So in that respect, what is going to make a platform better or worse than another platform is one execution, which nobody has a candle to Jigsaw, right? So then, but let's just say we are handling that with Jigsaw. I still want charts. What's going to matter the most is which ecosystem is the better ecosystem, where you can go and find new indicators and create new indicators yourself. So that's why I prefer NinjaTrader 8 over Seer charts. I don't think that Sierra charts is very friendly. Like, so there's two other things that I don't like about Sierra charts. One is that I don't feel like that the person was that designed Sierra charts was a trader. I think that it's like some guy that's wants to make money as making software, and he has an engineer in India or something, and he's just sending in requirements, because like the organization of that application is just all over the place. It's just so weird, right? Oh, Jigsaw is superior for execution, 100%. Saying that Jigsaw is too slow for effective order execution is absolutely silly. He's Aircages is just trolling me. No, I don't think that there's any platform where placing and canceling orders and everything else is more efficiently done. And if you think that
Love
Jigsaw
that.
is slow, then probably you need to go and change your update intervals in your DOM, because your computer can't handle the what you're the amount of data you're trying to push through it. Why is this superior? Well, so like for instance, one thing that I think is a big deal is just like if I come over here and I place an order, we'll do it in the 10-year. I want to buy at 19, I just come in here and I click at 19, right? And I click on that blue column. But if I want to market buy into 23, then I click the blue column, and it will automatically become a market order there. And if I want to create a stop, then I just click up here and it will automatically place it as a stop. So you go into any other software, particularly NinjaTrader 8. If I want it to be a stop order, I have to push like some other key or modifier to say that it's going to be a stop order. Whereas NinjaTrader just does it contextually based on where you clicked, right? And Sierra Charts has some of that functionality, but it's like this is not quite as good. But the other thing that I don't like about Sierra Charts is that Sierra Charts is starting to move to being a closed ecosystem, right? Like they have their own tech. It's, and you can use any broker that you want right now, but I'm pretty sure that at some point it's going to be like TradeStation is, right? It's like you'll only be able to use Sierra Charts clearing. They're moving to being a closed ecosystem, and I don't like that. Because like if I'm going to be in a closed ecosystem, it better be because I think that the broker itself is just absolutely amazing, right? Instead of like what they do in NinjaTrader, which I really hate it in NinjaTrader too. They rope you into a broker that is really kind of just okay, isn't really all that great. And they coerce you into doing it so that you can use the good software. So I much prefer, you know, using rhythmic data and being able to pump my data into a bunch of different applications. Like again, for me, if I'm doing anything that's technical, and that's really what these all come down to, because Jigsaw allows me to see the DOM. That's all I need for that stuff, right? And most of what I'm trading off of, well, I need to be able to see the order flow. Jigsaw does that, and I need to have information, right? None of these platforms give you informational edges. I get my informational edge through Financial Juice and Twitter and Zero Hedge, right? Yeah, NinjaTrader's own brokerage. It sucks. Well, it doesn't suck, but I don't like it. Okay. I don't like that situation. You're right. We're comparing NinjaTrader and Sierra charts. So, but and I really just don't like that Sierra charts basically steals things from everybody. None of what's in that platform was stuff that they came up with. It was just everybody else did something first, and then Sierra charts put the cheapo version of it in theirs. I don't like that. I don't like supporting developers like that. But I really think what happens to you guys is here's how I view Sierra charts. You come in, you want to trade, and you say, okay, well, I could go with Jigsaw, but I have to spend $450, right? After the discount, it's $450, and I have to pay like a monthly connection fee. Or I can just pay $10 a month to Sierra charts. And so I think that the vast majority of people end up going to Sierra charts because it's cheaper. Is what I think it really comes down to. And then once you're in that ecosystem, then all of the cognitive biases come in. What I use is the best thing. Well, it's not. I'm just telling you. Jigsaw is a better piece of software than Sierra charts is. Yeah, that's the whole point. Is what you get what you pay for. That's all I can say. And it really and like, but that's why I brought up like the programming stuff is like once you get into interfacing with the software and making your own stuff, the flaws in Sierra charts are like glaringly obvious. That's like they say, Sierra charts is like really stable and everything else like that. Um, I feel like the only reason it's stable is because it's been around for so long and they've worked on it and everything. Because some of the design decisions that I see in there do not like give me supreme confidence in like their abilities. Sorry. Or it's like they don't understand. It's like they've made Sierra charts. They want to have this thing where everything that you ever need, we've already included it in there. I think that that's kind of their approach a bit to some extent. And then I'm just telling you that's probably not the way that you want to go. Because anything that's going to be included with that platform is probably not going to do a ton for you on its own. Well, we're getting a pullback here in the treasuries. I think that 1.48 wouldn't be terrible if we really, really wanted to go, really badly wanted to go long rates, right? Depends a lot on taste too, yeah. But that's the thing is like when it comes to Sierra charts, can I make these in Sierra charts? From what I've seen in programming in Sierra charts, I think I can. And it seems like a lot of you guys use it. So, and what were the actual numbers? 33% of you were Jigsaw and 16% of you were Sierra charts. So I think that the biggest thing is that I should be making sure that the package that I got from NinjaTrader is really solid and makes sense for you guys, and that I'm doing a good job selling it, which I don't think I am. I'm not sure how I go through and like when I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I think I know how to sell it. These are things that you really should be looking at. Like you're missing out on some pretty critical information that explains why the market is doing what it's doing if you're not looking at things like spreads and what the market orders, the limit orders and cancels and things like that are doing. Um, and if you can't see like the dollar index is another really big one. I don't get how does anybody trade. By the way, I don't have that chart showing here today. I should put that up there, huh? I have it over here. The dollar index hasn't moved all that much today, though, has it? If we come back out here a little bit. Yeah. Well, it did have a little bit of a bump up, but in the larger scheme of things, because if you come back here, so from 96.25 to 96.4. Yeah. Anyways, you want to be able to see the dollar index. So these are things that, quite frankly, all of the platforms should probably have. Edge Clear has the spreads, so that's really good. Some of these platforms just like don't even have them in there, and I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? But it's good for me because that means that we can make this and we can give it to you guys and show you how to use it and give it to you for a reasonable price, and then we can use that to give you more things. So I changed it up. We're gonna try doing it like $100 lifetime license. You have to give me your machine ID because that's how the Ninja Trader licensing works. Maybe hopefully if we go into Sierra Charts, we'll change that. But I don't think we go into Sierra Charts for a few months still. And what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and then for the YouTube subscription, because we still have the elite YouTube subscription, I think what we're going to do there is I'm going to start making subscriber only videos. So if you're subscribed, for the indicators, I'll everybody that's already in from today, you'll be good for life now. So even if you haven't paid $100, right? So you lucky little gets the few of you that have done that. But I think I'm going to try and give more reasons for people to subscribe on the YouTube that make more sense from like a YouTuber perspective. Because like going and clicking, like if I just looked on somebody's random video and I saw there's a join button, the last thing that I would think that would be the big reason for me to click that button would be because I get Ninja Trader indicators, right? But like extra videos is a very different thing. And I think that we can do like some more strategy videos and go through significant pieces of news on a regular basis that we should all be, keeping track of, so that when we're here on the stream, you'll know for sure what I'm talking about. You'll have had the opportunity to read them. So I think that's what we're going to do there. What is your question mark about, Greg? Boris Johnson is going to make an announcement calling it a circuit breaker announcement. That sounds like that's not really probably a big deal. Because it's going to be like, if it gets X bad, then we'll do this, and probably they'll do might not be all that bad either. How TPTB view us? Who is that? Oh, by the way, what time is it? 8:30? Well, I tell you what, I came in and I was like, oh, we got to talk about the website and all that sort of stuff. So you guys helped me a little bit. You didn't. I tell you what, you can go to speculatorseth.com, look at the website, and if you see something about the website that you think we could improve, then let me know. All right, we need to maybe we should make some videos that are like more effective at explaining why you should get it. Yeah. Oh, you've been away from it. I think that what he's talking about, Greg, is a circuit breaker for like, if the Omicron cases in the UK get too bad, they'll implement additional restrictions of some sort. But I don't think that it would be like a national lockdown. They've kind of already put the kibosh on that. But like right now, it's like, work from home if you can, sort of a thing. So. Well, I'm going to be very interested to see here if the Treasury, it's very possible that they could get sucked back into 26.5 and maybe even possibly reverse. Yeah, it was a COVID thing. You've been gone for a month, so you missed my whole um escapades in oil that I should have never have done. I lost a big chunk of money trying to play oil. Uh Feels pretty dumb in retrospect. I don't know what I was thinking, guys. I failed you on that one for sure. Made a very poor decision. Uh-oh. Joe Biden tests negative. Oh, that's good. Joe Biden tests negative for COVID after having close contact with an aide who contracted the virus. Might be a little bit too early for that to show up though. Yeah, I was trading CL. I was trading micro CL. So I thought, well, it's only micro CL, and like it's an opportunity where I really think that oil should be rising. And but I just didn't know enough about the oil market to execute it effectively. I really, if I had done things right, I should have waited for the OPEC announcement, and then during the OPEC announcement, after I saw a reversal, I could have taken it there, and then I could have taken a trade and held it for a long time, and I probably could have made. How much could I have made if we had gotten in somewhere around here? So like let's say that I went from 65 to 72. So I probably could have made 700 bucks, but I didn't. I lost 1,000 essentially on it. So it was really dumb of me. Forex Live asks, what is the market reaction if slash when Biden tests positive for Omicron? Got to imagine there's a pretty high likelihood it happens in the next month or so. I think so, actually, yeah. Well, when Donald Trump caught uh, COVID, there was a market reaction, was there not? But it was kind of a short-lived thing. I'd be kind of concerned about Joe Biden's health, but in a situation like this, they have such good care that I don't think that it would be a big deal. So if the market did decline off of it, I would fade it. See a little selling until the year being closed. That might be the case. I was hoping that we were going to get a Santa Claus rally, but I mean, we're up a little bit overnight, and then now since the regular session, it's been mostly selling. I mean, it's kind of been waves, but they are kind of it's like that kind of selling actually in the ES is the kind of is a little concerning, isn't it? Because it's like kind of slow and steady stuff. They'd give him ivermectin. They'd use all of those other expensive drugs that they've approved. Feel like I'm forgetting something. There's something somebody asked a question or something I should be talking about. Well, the more that I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't think that I'm going to be able to get, if I made stuff for Edge Clear and I focused on Edge Pro X, I don't think that that would really move the needle for very many people. So it's probably not worth it for me to put effort into that right now, but I could justify doing it in Sierra charts. Well, but the website needs a little bit of work still because you can't see the price. Need to fix that button. Oh, I'll do it off screen here. Can I fix that? When you go and you make the button, can you tell it to show the cost? Like, because it doesn't show it until you click the button. By the way, that all works. So if you want to buy the indicators, you don't have them. Go to speculatorset.com and purchase the license. And at some point, we'll be able to. I can't see a whole lot in PayPal right now. So I'm sure that once a few people have done that, we'll be able to improve things a little bit. Gosh, it's so freaking hard to find this stupid thing. Like, maybe I logged in with the wrong. You're using Sierra for years, but now you have to use their Denali feed for historical, which is a huge pain. So Sierra Denali to Rhythmic via AMP. Oy. It really is just kind of like a mess. I'm telling you, once they start making their own stuff, complicates things. I much prefer the platforms that like everything is kind of open. Yeah, I'm sure it probably works okay. I'm gonna bet though that Denali's historical is not as good as Rhythmic's. Oh, there it is. I scrolled right past it. View your saved funds. Hmm. Oh, maybe I should make a new one. Okay, I think the way that I need to do this is edit button. And add a drop down with price option. And it should just be essential 100. Like that. There we go. You're running 2 instances? Why are you running 2 instances? Drop down menu name is inch. I don't know if that is speculating. So if I come here now, does it automatically reflect it in that? No. I think that I have to update it here. I mean, eventually they're not going to allow you to use Rhythmic anymore, right? I'm just telling you, like that's where this road leads to. Is you have to use them for your data. You have to use them for that's what NinjaTrader did, and Sierra Charts is going to be doing the same thing. There we go. I could change the make that look a little bit nicer and maybe put a box around it or something, but that's a little better. They clearly don't want to, but they'll probably at least keep Rhythmic for combines, as a lot of the customer base uses it. Oh, that's probably a good point. But they'll just do like what NinjaTrader does, right? Where it's like it's in there and the software is able to do it, but none of the retail traders are allowed to use it unless they're actually using the, you know, they're actually in a combine. Because that's what Ninja, like, you can't go to NinjaTrader brokerage and use Rhythmic anymore through or at least through NinjaTrader clearing. And right, people are grandfathered in, but if you're not grandfathered in, then you basically host. You have to use CQG. This is just a perfect example of the problem with zero charts is that like it's just organized so poorly. Trying to find any setting in there is a nightmare. That's their biggest downside. Hmm. Interesting to me that we're seeing some pretty significant rises in energy prices over in Europe right now. But like when we come over to natural gas, I mean, natural gas is up on the day, but we're still not back above $4. So yeah. By the way, this selling in the treasury, like when it came down or it came back up and we said, well, this wouldn't be too bad of a spot to do it. I think that the best that we were getting was one spot 4.8, right? So we could maybe be up 7 ticks right now. I don't know if that would be worth it. Is there going to be another really strong impulse down? I mean, I'm not the volume has been a little bit more mixed. At least the market volume has been a little bit more mixed since that big decline. So And again, given the context and there being an auction and everything, I'm not so sure. I think it could definitely for this long swing trade. We are definitely able to hold this. I took a little bit of risk off. We could get a really crazy trade here off of the when it happens, right? What are we waiting? Oh, well, there's a treasury auction at 11. That's what I was saying. It's like this. I took some risk off, but we could the auction, given the way that it's been acting so far today, that 20-year could auction could be a real disaster. I'm not confident enough on that to make a bet on that on my live account, but it's definitely like on my list now. We really should have, when we had the opportunity to go long at like one spot for six, we definitely should have taken that, right? And then maybe now we could still be in and waiting for the auction and hoping that we get something off the auction. But now, one of the things that last time that this happened, I actually was able to hold it through the auction, but then like it really shot on the auction and it almost immediately came back and retraced everything. So I don't know if that means that you want to take the profits on it immediately after the auction or what. Certainly, I got to be looking at that one spot 5 area. There might be some stuff happen there. Make sure to change the symbols. Oh man, some some of these trading applications, I haven't looked at it in CR charts for a long time, but like the way that Edge Pro X handles instruments is so annoying. I have this autofill, and I told them like the auto complete in the instrument box is like really bad. And they're like, oh yeah, there's an option to just turn that off. And I'm like, but why can't we just have an autocomplete that's just not bad? Like we should still have autocomplete. It just shouldn't be bad. Yeah, Greg says he understands it now. Yeah. I mean, CR charts isn't so bad with once you understand it, right? You just have to know where all the settings are to set it up the way that you want it. The 5-year is the one that's running here now, by the way. We're getting a little bit of flattening. So that's curious to me. Yeah, that's your chart for you. But like, so here's my final case on this one, right? Is if we're looking for like the best, most perfect software, given what we got there on Sierra charts, there's a couple of disqualifying things in there for it, right? Now, Jigsaw Day Trader, um, there are things missing, right? Like I can't program. That's pretty awful. I think at some point we will be able to. So that's where I'm like, Jigsaw has the potential to become perfect, but Sierra charts will probably never get there, right? That's my case. That's my case. Nah, I think the day trader has been pretty okay on. I mean, getting things set up is pretty easy. They certainly took a lot longer to get their charts set up going than they should have. Right. But now that that's fixed, we'll see what they come out with in the first quarter because they've supposedly got some pretty good. Actually, I haven't checked their chat here on their. Let's see here. So if we go to their server, their inner circle, because they were talking. They were just talking about the new course last time I looked. Yeah. They're still talking about the new courses. Okay, well, it's also a difficult platform because it's probably the most customizable one. Yeah. Oh, wow. Anytime. Um, we're getting. I'm wondering if it's time for me to just shut things down. Oh, Gus was sending me a message, but we can talk about it after the stream. Wondering, is it? You wanted to show me something, and wondering, is it something that's programmable, or is it just something that you've been doing manually? I'm also kind of still sitting here because the treasury is like right on its low. So I'm wondering, normally at this time of day, you guys are all yapping. I'm like, well, it's about time for me to go. And then you all start asking questions, but not today. And he says he doesn't know yet. Well, I'm always interested in seeing, like, especially if you already have some results, right? You can show me some results. Like, how many trades worth of results do you have? Mhm. Let's just reset the DOM there. Oh, he doesn't know yet. Okay. Yeah, if you go into the performance analyzer, NinjaTrader should be showing you. Another question would be, what instrument are you making them in? Is it an ES? MES. Oh, well. If you've been making them in MES over the past, week or two, then that's definitely sounds like something worth looking into. I'm still on the like, I need to have some sort of numbers before I want to like go and dive super deep into something, but does the NinjaTrader 8 Chart Trader work in the free version? I think that you need to um I think that you need to have a full license to do any kind of live trading with NinjaTrader. But then on top of that, I don't think that the chart trader even opens up or shows if you don't have the paid version. But I don't know how to test that because I'm using the paid version right now. Chart Trader is a pretty good feature, I must admit. Yeah, that's why I feel like I need more time. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's something that you back tested. Huh. So probably the thing that we got to be careful about there is that there certainly has been some opportunities to make some money taking on risk in the last little while, and then those results might not, are probably it's less likely to continue following through just because of the unusual market that we've had lately, right? But especially if you think that it's something that we can program. Okay, well, it's the top of the hour. what should we put in today's title? I mean, we talked about a bunch of things, but I don't know if I really want to put any of that in the titles. Yields rise ahead of 20-year auction. What am I going to put in there? And Santa Claus will pump up the markets. I can only hope. This doesn't look so super. I mean, it's not like dismal or anything, but that Santa Claus rally doesn't seem to be coming, guys. I'm I'm kind of thinking that maybe it was the case that all of the chaos and stuff earlier in the month caused all of the fund managers to just hunker down for the year, and that we're not going to get that this year. It's possible. Yeah, outpick in the treasury. I'm not going to wait around forever. I think I want to go and spend some time reading my probability book and writing some scripts and taking advantage of while everybody is still asleep to get some work done. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you check out my website, speculatorset.com. Go and check it out. And just, if you have any comments or things don't make sense on the website, let me know. So I think we should do a better job with that. I feel a moral obligation now. I've been convinced. Okay. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable.